Welcome to Fall Into the Vortex with Yolie, where we talk about all things fun. Fall into the vortex with Yolie. Fall into the vortex.
Hey, y'all. Oh my goodness. I feel a little sentimental because I'm super excited always about Fall Into the Vortex with Yolie, but I'm especially excited about today because of who's with me. Shamari K. Reid, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
I am someone who loves you.
And I love you back.
I'm someone who loves you. And I'm someone who loves myself. That's how I would refer to myself these days. I guess also I'm a student in the Department of Curriculum and Teaching at Teachers College, going into my 5th year of this doctoral program and final year. I also offer classes at Hunter as an adjunct instructor on urban education, literacy, the teaching of reading. And so those are some of the professional things I do now. And I write a lot, I think a lot, and I love even more.
Oh my goodness. I was just thinking about your incredible blog. I was thinking about some of the letters. And so what I want to do is remind the viewers of how this flows. And then I would love, Shamari, if you could talk a little bit more about that letter series that you've been writing, perhaps about the blog. And then I want you to share something, anything that you want to talk about. It could be some of your own creative work, something that you're working on. But I just want to remind everyone that you know how this goes. There's no structure except for at the beginning, asking Shamari to share something that he wants to bring to us. Then at some point, we'll get into the book. I'll ask Shamari to read 1 or 2 poems from Love from the Vortex that was meaningful to him. And then we're going to flow. And I want to warn y'all, when I flow with Shamari Reid, we don't know where we're going. I mean, we never know where we're going on this show, but in particular, I might just slip into the vortex. So having said that, listen, Shamari, I'm going to put myself on mute because I just want you to talk to us and share anything that you'd like.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned the letters. I think I'll start there because I think they're really important when we think about love and love from the vortex. And I think I can make a really clear connection. I remember reading once that you wrote Love from the Vortex to Heal. I remember you saying that. I think it actually may be somewhere in the book, right? In the beginning or the end, I write to heal myself. That's exactly the same energy I think I took to the letters. I, as a proud Black gay man, was looking to read things that would talk about the love that I could have in my life and the joy that I could have and the healing that I was capable of, but I couldn't find it. Every time I would come across something that I felt spoke to, the Black LGBTQ experience, it was sort of trauma-filled. And while I understand that's important to lift up because it's true and it is happening, that's not all we are. We are not only the things that have been done to us by those who are afraid of love. We are so much more than that. So I began writing those letters to heal. And I was speaking to myself, and I sort of took up Toni Morrison's call that if you are looking for something to read and you can't find it, well then, my love, then you have to write it. And so I wrote the letters to myself and then realized I should be sharing these and writing these to other Black LGBTQ folks. And so every Sunday at the beginning of the year, I was writing these letters. And I think I went on for maybe 10 weeks. Then COVID and other things happened. But I was writing things that I wanted to read. I was trying to heal. I was trying to understand, is it possible to be Black, gay, and have love in your life and have joy and have peace? And I discovered that yes, not only can we, I've experienced those things and we have those things. And I think when we talk about like even radical love and what does that look like, it's always been within the Black LGBTQ community. And so
yes,
from that.
So much is going through my head. The first thing is I hope that you put that in a book. You know, I have all these titles. You know, I'm totally into titles. Love letters to my people, love letters to my community. But when you were speaking earlier, Shamari, it made me think of a song. I'm going to have to go back into my playlist. But there's a refrain in this beautiful song that actually Derek of DK Yoga plays when we do yoga. He says, I am more than what has happened to me. And we all have had a lot of things happen to us. And we're going to talk a little bit about some recent healing that you're experiencing. Certainly all of my healing is here, but I'm more than this. This is just, you know, I've had the opportunity to have this experience with 6 wonderful people. And there were wonderful moments, there were painful moments, but I'm more than this. And even as Black folk, we certainly know we are more than what has happened to us with this dehumanization project that's been happening for 400 years. But I don't want to go on a tangent. I just wanted to connect.
So just like here we go, right? Now you're taking me. And this is going to get super spiritual and super deep and complex. And I hope doesn't go over the head of the folks who watch this. But
whoever catch it will catch it. Whoever doesn't, they can play it back.
You know, we are the consciousness that is aware of the things that are happening. Just the spirit. I think of anyone who's spiritual, this is beyond religion. I'm not sort of doing religious doctrine. This is spirit, spirituality. You are the awareness of the things. You are what is behind that. You are the thing that is being aware of what's happening to the body, but you are not the body, you're the spirit. And that to me, I think is so powerful. And once you realize that, at least for me, that's where healing can not only happen, but it's a place from which it flows. And it allows me to just go with life and just say, I'm aware of these things. I'm aware of these moments. They're teaching me things. They're happening for a reason. They're a lesson. But the sum of all that I am, is more than the sum of these things.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I am more than the sum of these things. And so, yeah, the letters are the other things that we are. And even those aren't enough. Even the letters aren't enough. Words aren't enough sometimes to capture it. I think you have, and I'm not going to read that poem today, but in love, I think you write that even the words "I love you" aren't enough.
And particularly for people like us who come from a griot tradition. I was talking to Dr. Angel Acosta last night. He was sharing something with me. I think he read from a brother who's a Blackfoot. And he was talking about the insufficiency of language, that even though he was writing something down, that his people, and I would say by extension, our people, are from an oral tradition where we pass things down. And when we think about writing in the form of, you know, the colonized sort of colonial project, you know, white folks have always used the pen against us, right? That's how, you know, they wrote particular documents stating our dehumanization and our inhumanity and so forth. So it was such a powerful short 2 paragraphs where he talks about the power of who we are, codifying something that's important, but at the same time acknowledging that he's not codifying it in the sense of the white Western tradition. So there's this tension that we have with writing, particularly as Black people, when we think about Auntie Toni Morrison, who, thank God she wrote it down, because it's changed us and is changing us. But she wrote it down, I think, in a tradition certainly that was not colonized, in the tradition of the griot, of sort of the spoken word on the page. And for me, Mari, those are your letters. That is the blog that you have been keeping. I've been privileged enough to read your work in progress for your dissertation, which is going to blow up the academy. And so you very much write to me, or write in the tradition for me of Auntie Toni. And there's some Baldwin-esque type of work in you as well.
When I think of them, and we're New York City.
It's the COVID.
So
it's the COVID.
Hear the things in the background, and so just I'll sit for just a moment. But when I think of Toni and James, and what Toni Morrison said about James Baldwin, what I said about Toni, is Toni said James broke the language open.
Yes.
Made it work for him.
Yes.
And people said Toni did that, right? And I think she has a piece, Toni says, you know, make the language sweat or something, or don't make it sweat. It's a beautiful piece, and she's talking about what you just said, is that lean into your Blackness and make the language work for you.
Yes.
Do not sort of try to modify your Blackness to fit within the existing language. The language is yours to do with whatever you want. And so when I read that, I was just like, I can make whatever I want with this. I can make whatever I want with language. I can break rules because they aren't real. And we know they've been designed for a very specific purpose. And so I'm going to just let go and let the words.
Oh my goodness. And speaking of letting go and letting the words, and speaking of healing, you know, before I ask you to turn to the vortex, is there anything that you would like to read to us or share with us in connection to healing, in connection to what we do with language, any of the things that we've spoken about? Is there anything that you would like to share before we jump into Vortex Poems?
So yes, I think, and I will pull it up here as you're there. And I'm wondering if for the viewers, because what I'm going to read is a quick piece called Water. It's one of the letters.
Mm-hmm. I love that piece. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you chose water. I'm so glad.
It's going to connect what I'm sharing with you. It's also where I am. When we talk about healing and we talk about water and Toni's sort of, for me, one of my favorite lines is, you know, water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to find its way back to itself.
Oh my God.
I can't sort of say what she meant with that, but I know how I interpret it, and that to me speaks directly to healing. This idea that we are water, and anyone who knows anything about science knows that in fact most of our body is water.
Yes.
So the idea that we're always trying to find our way back to ourselves, and if we are water, how do we get back to water? Is through water. We cry. And so this piece I'm going to share is water, and I'm going to ask you, do you think it? I can share the screen, or I can just read it. You let me know what you think might be best for everyone. Because
what are you feeling? We go with the flow here, Mari.
So I think if I share the screen and read along, people might be able to sit with the words.
Let's do that then.
I'll do that. So I will pull it up here. 1 second.
And let's make sure you have the capability. I may have to co-host you, so we'll do that together.
Okay.
Let's see what the flow brings.
Okay. I'm going to share. This is a piece called Water. This is a letter, and I will read it. It's a short one.
Agua.
And that's my little sister. So this is letter number 3. Dear Us. And this is actually water in Portuguese, because this realization came to me when I was in Portugal.
Mm.
So it starts with, you wanted to go somewhere you could marvel at something. Another quarrel with vacillation done, you made up your mind. Without reluctance, you grabbed the green one. And then as people who forget they are enough often do, you put it back. If I had asked you in that moment why you decided to return it to the dark hole that occupied too much space in your closet in life, you would have stated that a suitcase so large would only weigh you down. A lie. You would travel to Lisbon heavy no matter what. What weighed you down was not green, but a being of sorrow suffused with all the colors of the earth. Soon, you would be somewhere you could marvel at something, you thought. Let you tell it. Your eyes were finally about to prove their worth, and Portuguese architect theirs. Another lie. As you waited in T4 with the butterfly on repeat, you were unaware that in just a few days, the world would demonstrate its consistency and let you down.
Mm.
You could barely hear the woman's faint voice. The wind was behaving like that soprano who did not blend well, but swore she held her section down. Between flat and sharp notes and failed runs, you heard the woman say, "This is the edge of the earth. Look out there. That beyond the water, that's the beginning." With lifeless blonde hair and dangerous naivete, she was so foolish, gullible. For once, her ordinary blue eyes had not served her. And could not seduce you into ignoring the truth. You knew that following the woman's pointed finger would not lead anyone to the edge of the earth, the beginning. You were disappointed. There was nothing marvelous about mediocrity. This pale woman and her white lie were both basic at best. There was more than this. This could not be the edge. The edge you had always felt was the genesis of the water, that from which all life flows, that which we might not recognize now, because of its temporary state of aridness, but there was once water there, here, the one true beginning. You were present enough to sense that the wind began to sing softer, quieter. No longer entertained, whiteness retreated, and left alone, you reflected on the pain you carried. It was more vast and complexly deep than this so-called edge of the earth. The pain became too much, and you finally surrendered. The heaviness won, the emotional levees your ego created broke. However, you did not break down, but vulnerably you teared up. Really something to see, even better to feel. Water everywhere. You had been in a desert state for so long, you had believed it was who you were. You had forgotten that you, yes, you, were an oasis, rich with water, longing to be released in small drops that could lead you back to yourself. Many cascades that would make the desert no longer a desert, returning you to an oasis. And on that tearful day, the world witnessed the most marvelous thing it had ever seen, healing. And then the final piece is, tears are often enough. Follow them to healing, to wholeness. As Toni said, water always has a way of finding its way back to itself. If only our memory could be so perfect.
Just check out the blog, y'all.
Yeah. So I share that because that's where I am right now. I am processing disappointment and heartbreak and learning the power of crying.
Yes.
I was carrying the disappointment and carrying the heartbreak, and my ego and my pride were telling me that I was okay. Were telling me that lies, honestly, and telling me that this was this and this was that. But I had to quiet that. That's what water is about, really. It's about quieting the voices around you. And if you do that, then whiteness will leave because they no longer have entertainment. And then you'll be left alone. You'll be left alone to deal with what is it that's so heavy. And it's not a suitcase, it's you. And so the only way then for me to heal from that heartbreak and disappointment was to sit with my heaviness without entertainment and silence and return myself back to myself through water, through tears. And so I cried and I cried and I cried and I wiped my eyes and I said, the process of healing has begun. It has begun. I'm healing. And so that's where I am right now as I am returning myself back to myself, remembering that I'm in an oasis. And if anyone knows anything about oases, not only do they sort of hydrate, if you will, and provide water for themselves, but for others. And so when we cry and when we heal, we invite other people to do the same. And so we cannot ever forget that we are water, even in temporary states of aridness. Even when we feel like deserts, we're still human. And as we are humans, we have been equipped with all that we need to heal. Water.
Shamari, you know, let me just say this. I love you. Period. And while you were sharing, like my heart started palpitating because when you said, I returned to myself and began to heal, it made me think about a poem. And this is where we go with the vortex. This is from the new book. I'm 40 poems into a new book called The Peace Chronicles. And I just want to read a short piece, just speaking back or speaking in community to what you just said. And I wrote this shortly after I wrote it on the way to my uncle's burial, my uncle who passed away in February. And death always makes me think of life for some reason. And this poem, I'm just going to give a small piece of it. Your death has taught me to believe in the possibility of that romantic love, one that over time morphs into familial love, but your death creates an impatience in me, momentarily acquainting me with the impulse and loneliness, and I want to revisit my old loves and invite them to re-enter my world to chase away the sad. I sit and watch the sad as it passes. I say goodbye to the loneliness, and in my strength, I return to self-love and wrap myself in me. I comfort myself just as I have done before, just as I always will.
Yeah. And that's water in its perfect memory, and its sort of desire to always get back to itself. If only our memory could be so perfect. But it's so easy to forget that, and so easy to forget who we are in our humanity. And I think that's the ego, right? That's the ego I was talking about in water when I talked about the emotional levees that block us. Those are created by our ego. The ego, which lives in this state of never enough or too much. It tells you to stop, you're doing too much, or it tells you you're not enough, or you don't deserve, and it sort of creates these levees. And what the levees do, they keep the water back.
Oh.
So they break, and then we break down, and we tear up.
And break through.
And break through. I've been crying a lot in the last 2 weeks, and I can tell you, first of all, let me also share this, and you know this, I am someone who will cry in public. It's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, tears. I think they're healthy. I think they're powerful.
Yes.
I'm teaching. I cry all the time.
Me too. We're like the crying twinsies.
Because I understand that after I cry, I always feel, and I wipe my eyes and I'm like, I'm here. It's that I'm still here, that I'm still human. And I tell myself, of course you're hurting, Shamari, because you're human and you have a heart and you gave and you loved.
Yeah.
It's that you take. And this heartbreak suck. Yeah, it hurts. I'm not going to glamorize it and say it is painful.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a human, when I feel pain, I cry and I heal myself. And that's what I sort of heard when you were sharing this new poem from this new book, which I cannot wait. I cannot wait to get into 40 poems in, like, wow. But that's what that is. That's what that is. And you know what that connects to? I don't know what the structure is, but I'm going to read now.
Oh, yeah. Let's go to the book. Let's go to it. Yes.
Because you're going to see why. Listen, this is the way the universe works. This is the way that love works. We are always so connected in this. Yes. I did not know, by the way, you were going to share that. But this.
Tell us what page you're on. You know, I'm forever the teacher needing to read along.
I'm going to go to 153, and I've been marking with leaves. I'm going to read About Time.
Wait a minute. Marking with leaves. Talk about that real quick.
Flowers are really important to me. I wore flowers today for that reason.
Ah, beautiful.
Because when they read the letters, they'll see. I have often sort of thought about Black, queer, and trans folks like flowers.
Yes.
Flowers help us breathe better. But flowers are vulnerable, okay, if they're picked too soon. And so one of the letters I say, we don't need you to do anything else but not pick us before we're ready. And as flowers, we will continue to help other flowers, other people breathe better. And so my house is full of flowers. I have flowers right next to me here in the window.
Do you mind shifting your camera so we can see that?
I have them.
Oh my goodness, Mari, that's beautiful. I just
pull a leaf. When I'm reading, I pull a leaf and mark the pages. So I'm gonna do About Time on 153.
Yes.
Shorter one, but I think it's quite powerful. About time. I feel like time is running away from me. I now know the only way to catch it is to sit absolutely still. And I chose that because when I think of love in my life and the way that I used to approach relationships, it was from a place that was obsessed with the future. And what that invited me to do then was fall in love with potential, because I was in the future. And I would tell myself that with this guy and with this person, these things will happen. We will do this, and we will do this, and we will do this. And if I felt like we weren't going to get there, the fear would creep up, and I would start doing things because I thought our time was running out. So now I'm texting all the time. I want to see you all the time because I didn't feel like we would have a future.
Right.
Both of those things took me out of the present moment, and where I didn't enjoy what was actually in front of me. And so what I've now learned about love is that when I'm in love and when it's right, I have to want this moment more than anything. That's how I know I'm in love. Like, I don't want you in 5 years into this, whatever it is we're doing as I sit here with you and I'm sitting absolutely still in this present moment.
Yes.
I love that and I'm okay with that, then we have something. But I used to be like into potential. Like, oh, I think he can learn and unlearn. I think I can grow and we can't control the future. Those things never happen. Then they don't.
Right.
And I panic and I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't the life that I sort of had for us. Now I'm freaking out and I'm acting from that place of sort of panic. And then I push them away or we push each other away and it just doesn't work. And so what I've done now is to sit absolutely still and learn to be okay with the present moment. And if I'm not okay with the present moment in a relationship, then I need to leave. Then I must leave. If I'm not getting what I want in this present moment, if I don't feel that I'm being loved in ways that make sense to me, I have to get out. And I can't tell myself, oh, we'll get it next week. Next week isn't promised. Next week is not real. What's real is that today we don't work. And so I need to get out and stop sort of trying to fix, stop trying to wait it out. And I think that is what that poem for me just says, like, stop running and sit absolutely still and be present.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Mari, so much of what you said, first thing I think about any meditation practice that's worth anything, whatever tradition you're meditating in, it reminds you of the impermanence of all things. And it also reminds you that it is this moment, and it is only this moment that we have. And the misery comes when we begin to project into the future instead of dealing with and understanding what's happening. And I think if I would have done that, and I want to say specifically as I've gotten older, I was very young when I was with Angel. We spent a lot of years together, but specifically with Zarin and Tyrone, if I paid attention to those moments, I would have never moved forward.
Yeah.
But I was so busy being obsessed with the potential of who these men could be to me. Because they could be perfectly fine for someone else. But to me, it wasn't enough. And I knew it wasn't enough. And I ignored that moment that I was in because I was obsessed with what the future could possibly bring. And as you said, the future is not promised to us. Yeah. So you just broke down, boom, all of my relationships right there.
I just broke down all the relationships. As we're talking, I'm realizing my own stuff. And I'm like, wow. Like,
wow is right.
And you keep running to the future and then you realize you're alone. One, because they're not going to meet you there. And not only are you alone, you're exhausted and you've given everything. And you're like, what happened?
Because if they're not ready, you cannot make someone ready. As much as you give them your love and you cannot make someone ready. So no, they're not going to meet you in the future because y'all got to go there together.
Yeah. Because I think, listen, hold that. Let's connect the story. Let's now go to page 170 and let's sort of connect the inner me. And then I want to share something to your last point. So
yes, please.
Page 170, inner me. Of all the marvelous people in the world to meet, it is you I am most interested in knowing. Inner me. And the reason that this is connecting more so than before, I just chose my two favorite poems, by the way. I wasn't thinking about connections. I was just like, I love this one, I love that one. But when you were talking and you were saying, when people aren't ready, I think it takes a certain level of self-understanding and self-love to say, after you've gotten to know yourself, I love me, yes, and here's what I deserve.
Yes.
And I accept anything less. Now that I'm working on that, I'm able to be fully present and to ground myself and pay attention to signs and say, hey, I see you're showing up in this way. This is not how I want my partner to show up with me. Deserve more. Because of that, I will let this go. But that is self-love, because before it's the potential. It's very much like, what can I do differently?
We don't love ourselves enough.
Love ourselves enough. And so who I'm most interested in getting to know is me.
And you are a wonderful you. Oh my goodness, Mari, I'm thinking back for a moment to a conversation. We've had multiple conversations publicly or in podcasting. And I want to say that when I think about you, I automatically think about love. Like that's the word that comes to mind. And you know, when we WhatsApp each other, sometimes we don't even have to say any words. We just send a heart. Just send a heart. And
we had so many conversations. Like it's just hearts. It's like 2 hearts, then 4, and I feel it. I understand.
so having said that, you know, I'm thinking about the poem Love, which is towards the end of the book. I'm thinking about how that heart.
Wait. No, you're not. That's.
Tell me what. A
So
vortex moment.
Look, I was looking back through my notes to prepare, and there were 3 I wanted to share.
Don't tell me that was the last one.
Hold on. Enter me. About time. And love. And I actually read it to myself, I don't know how many times today. And the line, and
Oh God, this is us.
why, like, this is us.
Why don't we co-read? Why don't you read a page, I read a page, and you end? Because what I was going to say, because our minds are so intertwined, is I was going to ask you, given everything that you've said and what you've learned and how you are still in the midst of healing, and I send you so much energy and love and prayer that you're healing exponentially. No, I'm not going to do that because I know the healing is going to be at the pace that it's supposed to be.
That's right.
What I will send to you is that you have the beautiful ability to sit with it. Oh my goodness.
I marked it today. That's what's so crazy. I marked it today.
And I was going to ask you, what's love to you? Right? I'm saying all that to say that.
We can talk about that.
I still want you to answer that, but how about we just in an impromptu kind of way? Do you want to start? Do you want to do page 1? I do page 2. It's up to you. You're the guest.
You know what I would like to do? The second page. You start and then I'll come in with,
okay.
But it is myself on the second.
Beautiful. And then you'll finish the whole poem. Yes. So I'll do the first, you go and okay.
Yes.
Love. One of my favorites. I have come to the realization that no man on earth will ever be able to comprehend the depths of love I have to offer. For I am a stranger to myself when it comes to it, when it comes to this. My love flows like water, reaching levels deep beyond the surface. My love expands, contracts, opens again in the presence and shape of the lover before me, meeting and exceeding what he offers proudly as his all. My love, wild and open, shy and wanting, spills over, tripping over my tongue, racing. That's you.
Ahead of my heart and causing me to lose touch with myself. But it is myself that I most want to be with, sit with, allow to breathe. No labels, without words. What does I love you really mean anyway? These 3 words can never truly express what happens to my mind, body, soul, when my eyes and spirit connect with another traveler along the journey. A traveler who, like me, is in search for something deeper, ethereal, undefined. The truth is, I haven't a clue what love is, but I now know I have the courage to not speak these 3 words again, for they betray me in my very essence. They go against what I know to be true. Words cannot define love. Words limit what love can be. Love is what I wish to evolve into, what I imagine one day I can become. Wow. Love. What is love?
What is love to you?
To me, I think it's the reason we're all here. I really do believe that the reason we are all here is to try it. To try love. And I think that's all that I can say. And as I share, I of course connect back always to Toni. I'm always connected to Toni
Yes,
Morrison.
yes,
She's everything to me. But I think she said in an interview once that we did ask to be here. That's why we're here.
yes.
And she says, while we're here, we have to try love. We have to try it and take the risk. And might we be hurt? Yes. Might our love be too thick? Yes. But we have to try it. To not try it, I think she said, would be lazy and uninteresting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I remember that.
It's just, so love to me is the reason that we are here. It is what keeps us going. It is like, it's like water.
It is like water. It is like water. And it flows. We interrupt it, right?
That's right.
Right. So the water will always flow, but then we put
The ego.
this is the ego. This is how you have to call me. You have to show up like this. You have to do this. I think it takes two special people. And I thought that, you know, the things that Tyrone used to say with the conversations we had, I thought I had met another soul that saw love in that way, that it could just flow. And I was not perfect at all at the beginning of our friendship, because I had all of my insecurities and my desires. Call me this, do that. Well, how come I'm not hearing from you? And when I let go, and I let go specifically on spread love, if you don't mind finding that, I would love for you to read that for me. I remember the day very well. We had met for breakfast. We were going to the high school where I do work with downtown. And we met for breakfast. And we were sitting across from each other. And I was thinking, wow, you know, I really love this guy. And that's when I knew that I had to let him go. Because when you love someone, you have to release them. People always have the right to leave. And so in that moment, and it was also that the same day that he wore this coat, it was wintertime. And on the collar of his coat, when he turned up the collar, he had embroidered in red letters on this black coat, spread love. Mm. So seeing that, and then having this moment in the deli, that's when I knew. I said, yes, I have to let go and I have to let it flow. And we would have these conversations, and I thought that he was there with me. And then, of course, you know, come to find out that I really didn't know him at all. And in part because I think he's still figuring out who he is. So if you don't mind reading Spread Love, that's
I found it, but I also want to share, this is how the connections are, they're unreal.
Oh, between us? Oh, forget about it.
You were sharing that when you love someone, you have to let them go. And many folks don't know this about me. My first favorite writer is Toni Morrison. I think that is apparent. But my second is someone who I believe that not many folks would count as a writer. She's my second favorite, and it's Mariah Carey.
Oh, wow. I can see that. Her love songs.
Butterfly. Well, let me just read. The lyrics of Butterfly are, I have learned that to hold you, I must open up my hands and watch you fly. Because wild horses run unbridled or their spirit dies. And so the song is about a butterfly basically saying, I have to let you go and find your way. And if you come back to me, then we were meant to be.
Wow.
Such a hard lesson, because I think when we love, sometimes we want to hold on to and smother and keep close. That is insecurity.
Absolutely. And absolutely to Mariah too, because some of our best songwriters are incredible poets.
She's
and
a
poets
poet.
are writers. So she's a poet.
So much. I mean, anyone, just read it. Just go in the Butterfly album. She wrote all the songs, every song by herself. Look at that album.
And that's after she had been through some stuff.
Oh.
See, and I think you have to go through some stuff. That's why the heart has to remain open. Yeah. If the heart isn't open to love, you will not have these experiences that I think can enrich you and help you become the lover that you wish to be. That could be a lover with a partner, as a son, as a daughter, as a friend, you know. So absolutely, I think part of the joy and pain, and that was one of the poems I have on pain and joy within love, because both exist. They can coexist.
And they often do.
And they often do. Just read the book.
But let's just spread love, but
Yes.
we must try love.
Yes, we must try love. Mm.
So I'm on page 110 for those of you
Yes.
who might want to read along. 110, spread love. I'm in the Tyrone section. Spread love. It was only in that moment of letting you go that I learned the way to spread love is to live free. You embody all that is love. You promote it in the way you move. Your swagger speaks of love. Love is in the warmth of your eyes, the beauty of your smile. You carry love in the moment, you carry love in the movement of your hands. Even the clothes you wear speak of love. I hear it, just as my heart did when we first met. My heart heard and listened. Love, I am still listening. And we continue to remain committed to listening to our hearts. And I think I shared with you where we were talking after I was going through this last breakup. And I think you asked me, what will I do? And what would I do if someone came back? And I said to you, and I'll say it to everyone here, I would choose love every time. Every time I would choose love, and I would try it because we must. We must. That is why we are here. That's why we're here. That's what keeps us here. And I think I'm being quite literal, by the way. I'm not even saying that metaphorically or trying to sort of the reason we are here is because someone loved us enough to make sacrifices so that we could be here.
Yes.
What sustains us is the love we have for ourselves, the love others have for us. It's the flowers. That's what's helping us breathe.
Wow.
It's love. It's always been love. So we have to try, and yes, it hurts, and that's okay. That means you tried and you gave and you loved.
You loved. And the plants make so much sense with what you said. The flowers help us breathe, and plants, we know from a scientific perspective, we need plants for oxygen. Yeah. We need plants to breathe. And yes, indeed, we must continue to try love.
We must.
Mari, believe it or not, this is bringing us into our last segment.
Yeah.
Because we could talk for
hours.
Hours. What's that cup? What's on that cup? I see.
Toni Morrison here. Why am I like this? This is actually a gift from someone I love. From my cousin who got me this gift for my birthday. He got me this Toni Morrison cup and 2 Toni Morrison shirts that I wear often. And it's Toni Morrison. It's my favorite photo of her. Mm. And I wear that when I just want to feel close to her. So the cup says, we die. That may be the meaning of life, but we do language. That may be the measure of our lives.
That's etched on my heart. That's from her Nobel laureate speech.
Yep, you know how much I love that speech.
My goodness, this is why we start our classes with it, because we have to bring in
to it, right? So I actually was introduced to that speech in your class, the first week of class. We read that speech and it was about the bird. And it took me, I'm being completely honest with you, probably 2 years.
Oh, it takes time.
So
that's a
really,
thick piece.
I had to sit with it. And then it just came to me one day. And I said, thank you, Toni.
Yes. And that speech is all about love.
Absolutely.
The love of language, the love of justice.
That's right.
To love it enough to fight against the inhumanity and the fascism.
That's right.
That's another conversation because, we can get into the political stuff, but let me reel it back.
Yeah.
And let me say that as we enter this last segment, what I usually ask Shamari, and I ask of you, is for you to have the last word. And in that last word, you can share anything you'd like. It could be something else that is creative. It could be advice based on what you've experienced in your life. What advice would you offer to those who are listening or viewing in terms of trying love again, or might be in a situation where they feel that they're not being loved? Mm-hmm. I mean, the window is open, but what's most important is that we end with your words. So it's open for you to share anything that you'd like.
I'm going to just read a quick paragraph that I wrote to myself. It's going to sort of connect to the poem, the first one I read today, from Love from the Vortex, About Time. And I think I'll leave everyone with this. Sitting still, being in this moment happy, even with the uncertainty about what comes next, not defining or evaluating my present life based on my expectations of the future. With myself in this moment, enjoying myself and the universe, loving my present more than loving any idea I might have about the future, not loving the potential of all of this more than loving the reality of what it is, living, acknowledging my only real purpose, the inner one, is just to be present, typing these words, being with them, in turn, allowing them to be with me, sitting still, fully present. Finally.
Finally. That's like a kinship poem to at least 4 or 5 poems in Love from the Vortex. Shamari, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being who you are. I thank your mommy and your daddy for bringing you into the manifestation of the world and of life. And we thank all of you, both Shamari and I, for just sitting with us for this episode of Fall into the Vortex with Yolie. And we'll see you next time. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day.